Most hiring breaks before the first interview. Not because recruiters are lazy and not because hiring managers are impossible, but because the most recruiting teams are still acting like a service desk when they should be acting like a product team. And that mistake is costing the business time, trust, and productive people. Your hiring manager is not your partner in some loose, fuzzy, everybody pitching in kind of way. They are your customer. And the product is not the requisition. It's not the job post. It's not even the pile of applications. The product is the hire. And once you see recruiting that way, everything changes. Your intake changes, your metrics change, your expectations change, your leverage changes. And the practical move is simple. Stop opening roles with a form and start opening them with a role launch pack. If you're sick of being treated like a cost center, if you're tired of hearing your CEO say, just hire faster, giving you zero leverage and no extra budget, if you've been trying to explain that employer brand is so much more strategic than just a pretty website, well, you're ready for the next revolution in talent and people. Welcome. I'm James Ellis, and this is Becoming Choosable. And together, we can grow your company from the hire up. Let's show leadership that recruiting, HR, employer brand driving businesses forward by turning people work into growth work. You ready? Well, let's see what the claw machine of destiny has for us today. And as you see from the claw machine of destiny, today's episode is going to be about in and out. That is what's going in and what's going out. And today I'm going to tell you right now, what's out is treating recruiting as a service desk, and what's in is treating recruiting like a product team. Right? Recruiting is not here to take orders, file paperwork, open tickets, politely absorb dysfunction from the rest of the business. No, it is a product team. And that matters because service desks get judged on responsiveness. Product teams get judged on outcomes. And the business doesn't pay for effort, it pays for delivery. That's what we want to talk about. Because if you want recruiting to be treated like a great growth function, you have to stop acting like an intake form with a pulse and start acting like a team that designs, ships, and improves one of the most important products the company has, the hire. A lot of hiring pain gets mislabeled as recruiting problems. Bad candidates, slow process, offer drop-off, interview inconsistency, hiring manager frustration, candidate regret. But all those are usually product failures because the product starts breaking at the same place over and over again, the hiring manager journey. Think about the average intake. You get a form, you get a 15 or 30-minute meeting, you get a bunch of generic questions, maybe some recycled bullets from the last time the role was open or some other company with a similar kind of role. Then we all pretend that we all understand the role well enough to go represent it to the market. That's nuts. You cannot extract differentiated hiring strategy with boring process and generic questions. You can only extract generic answers. Generic inputs create generic job postings, generic outreach, generic interviews, and eventually, yeah, you guessed it, generic hires. That isn't a talent problem, that's a product design problem. The hiring manager does not care about the elegance of your process, could not care less. They care about whether the process ends with a great hire. And if it does not, they don't blame the requisition form. They blame recruiting. Fair or unfair, that's just how it all works out. So if the hiring manager is the customer, then your job is to design a process, a better, stronger customer journey that produces a better outcome. Now, this is where a lot of teams get lost. They optimize for activity instead of value. Time to fill, number of applicants, requisition age, pipeline volume. Some of those are useful operational metrics, but none of them are the point. The business does not wake up in the morning desperate for more applicants. The business wants productive people doing valuable work as quickly and as effectively as possible. So stop obsessing over time to fill like it's a headline metric. The metric that the business actually cares about is time to value. How fast did it take to get someone productive? How clearly did we define success? How much confusion did we remove? How much manager thrash did we prevent? How much candidate trust did we build? How much regretted turnover did we avoid? That is a radically different game than the one we are generally playing. Because once you focus on time to value, you stop treating hiring like a paperwork relay race and start treating it like a system that either creates a business momentum or destroys it. Every vague work requirement costs time to value. Every slow feedback loop costs time to value. Every random interview question costs time to value. Every extra round with no clear purpose costs time to value. That is the not so hidden tax. Now, most companies are paying for it every single day while calling it process. Now, here's what I think a lot of people get wrong. They think that hiring starts with the requirements. I think that hiring starts with outcomes. See, requirements create noise. Outcomes create alignment. If you're focused on requirements, you want to get a lot of requirements. And as we heard last week, well, requirements just make the job posting very, very messy and hard to understand and maybe very, very generic feeling. But if you start with the outcome, everybody aligns to what we're trying to achieve. If the hiring manager cannot tell you what the success of the job looks like in 90 days, they are not really ready to hire. They're just filling space. And that sounds harsh. Good. Because too many teams are still launching job searches on vibes, right? We need a strong engineer, or we need someone strategic, or we need an A player, or we need a culture fit. Great. That is meaningless. What does the person actually need to accomplish? What changes because they are in the role? What gets better in 90 or 100 or 360 days? What gets easier in 6 months? What evidence would make us say, yeah, that was an amazing hire. I'm so glad we did that. That kind of thinking is how the role becomes real. And that's why I like the role launch pack. Not because it's cute and not because consultants like me like to name things, but it's because it forces clarity before you start going into motion. A good role launch pack includes the stuff that actually matters. What is the win condition? What does success look like in 90 days? What is the ideal profile in plain English? Not a hallucinated unicorn spec, but I mean like a real human description. What are things they did in their past that's going to make them perfectly prepared for this job? What are the trade-offs that they are having to embrace when they step into this role? Why should someone want this job? Why should someone not want this job? What proof points make any of that stuff credible at all? And why would a great candidate believe anything we had to say? What is the job interview plan? What are we testing for? What is the rubric? Who is doing that testing? What evidence counts and what doesn't? That is a spec that works. The job description is just the marketing of that. And if your spec is weak, no amount of spicy copy is going to save the hire. Okay, now this is where I'm going to get myself into a little bit of hot water, but bear with me. I think the point is taken. A lot of recruiting teams are really taught that speed and quality are somehow in tension. They're in conflict with one another. And I get that very often that's true. But a huge amount of delay is not caused by rigor, more often caused by sloppiness. That's a sloppy intake, that's sloppy expectations, sloppy interviewing, sloppy decision making. And that kind of sloppiness doesn't improve the quality. It just makes everybody miserable slower. A better process does 3 things. First, it improves conversion. Candidates move because they understand the role, they trust the story, and they can see themselves in the work. It's not a generic set of platitudes that anybody can kind of say, oh, that sounds pretty nice, but about a level of specificity where someone goes, yes, that role. Second, it improves quality because you are evaluating against evidence and outcomes, not vibes and whoever was easiest to talk to. Third, it improves trust like everywhere. Hiring managers trust recruiting a lot more because the process feels decision ready and not a series of red tape checkboxes that they don't understand the value of. And candidates trust the company more because the process feels coherent and honest and clear. And that last part, that matters. Candidates don't just drop off because they're flaky. They drop off because something stops feeling true. The story changes. The process gets weird. The interviewers contradict each other. Response times drag. The offer comes in soft. Nobody seems aligned. And at that point, the candidate's not rejecting compensation. They're rejecting uncertainty. They don't know what you stand for. They don't know what you want. They don't know what you're trying to achieve. And if they don't know, how can they help you? So yeah, ship a better interview kit. Ship a better scorecard and a better narrative and a better close plan. And for goodness sake, do a postmortem. Because good hiring is not just movement through stages. It's increasing belief while reducing regret. That's the job. Now, if you want this idea to be taken seriously, You got to measure it like a business system, not a feelings exercise. You got to track the operational markers. Time from intake to calibrated launch. Time from interview to feedback. Time from final interview to the offer. And the offer acceptance rate. Those things matter. But more important measures are the ones that tell you whether the system is producing value. Measure the hiring manager response times. Not because it's annoying when they are slow, but because slow response kills candidate trust and extends the time to value. Measure your interview feedback quality. Was feedback evidence-based, or is it just a bunch of, hey, they seem sharp? Measure conversion between all the key stages. Are strong candidates moving forward, or are they leaking out because the process is muddy? Measure candidate confidence at offer stage. Do they understand the role, the team, the trade-offs, and why this job matters to the company and what they should expect from it? Measure the regretted turnover, because a fast hire that turns into 6 months of regret is not a win. It is an invoice from the future. And finally, measure alignment. How often do hiring managers, recruiters, and interviewers agree on what success actually is before the search starts? That is a key metric and honestly a huge predictor of hiring success. Because if alignment is low at launch, chaos later doesn't get surprising, it's guaranteed. As always, when you're making change, you need to be prepared when the executives push back on any kind of change. They do not understand why recruiting shouldn't look like every other company. I don't understand why, but here we are. So when your executive says, why are we adding more steps? You need to prepare to say, we're removing expensive ambiguity up front so we spend less time, add money, and manager time fixing bad searches later. When they ask, why can't we just move faster? You say, we can move faster once the role is clearly defined enough to avoid rework, candidate drop-offs, and regretted hires. When your exec says, why should managers spend more time on this? You need to say, because 1 hour of manager clarity at the start is cheaper than 6 weeks of drift, delay, and wrong candidate interviews. And finally, when the exec says, this sounds like a recruiting preference, you say, no. This is a productivity system. It shortens the time to contribution and improves the odds that an accepted offer turns into real business output. So what's one thing you should change this week to make this happen? Well, as always, start small. Pick one high-impact role, just one. And before that role opens, you want to build a simple one-page role launch pack with 5 things. What does a win in 90 days look like once the hire happens? The ideal candidate profile in plain English, real trade-offs, the proof points that make the opportunity believable, and the interview plan with evidence-based scorecards. Then you want to add 2 rules. Call it a service level agreement if you must. I would. You're going to ask that all resumes are reviewed and given feedback in 48 hours, and interview feedback has to happen in 24 hours. And by the way, make it clear what happens if they don't abide by those agreements. Any agreement that doesn't have a penalty or a punishment isn't really an agreement, it's just a hope and a dream. Then get commitments that you will run a 10-minute postmortem on the offer outcome, whether the candidate says yes or no. Do that once, clearly with one open role. You don't need a transformation deck. You don't need all this rigmarole and change management. You just need one proof point. Because once people feel the difference between the chaotic hiring they're used to and something more designed, more thoughtful, they're going to stop asking for the old process back. So forward this to one hiring manager who keeps asking for better candidates while giving recruiters worse inputs. Let them know that they're part of the process and their input leads to better outcomes. Finally, recruiting is not there to process demand. It is there to design better hires, because that is how you grow your company from the higher up. Thanks for listening. I'm James Ellis, and I'll see you next week. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. This podcast is brought to you by Becoming Choosable, available at Amazon as a paperback or ebook. And by Employer Brand Labs. Make your priority roles choosable in 30 days, because you can't outspend them, but you can outclarify them.